What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It's time to continue our 2023 schedule preview and projected records for the 2023 college football season. We continue them with the Rutgers Scarlett Knights. Here was the schedule last year for this Rutgers team. The overall record for this team going 4-8 overall in 2022. So yeah, a big disappointment from the Rutgers. It's no surprise, though, from this team. This team hasn't really been able to compete with the Big Ten over the years. You look at who they played in the non-conference last year. They played Boston College out of the ACC. They ended up winning that game on the road, and to be honest, they won their first three games, and this Rutgers team got off to a 3-0 start. And, we thought the Rutgers would be kind of good from there, but we kind of knew that they would lose some of these games down the stretch. I mean, they had a tough stretch there from September 24th to Nebraska, from September 24th to October the 7th. And then, of course, they had that tough stretch there at the end of the season from October 29th to the end of the season. But they did at least get one win in the Big Ten last year. That was to Indiana. And Indiana really didn't turn out to be as good as we think they were going to be. So, Rutgers 4-8 season last year. And before we start this video, we are very close to completing our projections. We are going to be completing them by next Friday, I believe. So we are down to 2 Power 5 teams, from last year, and then of course we'll do the 4 newcomers in the Big 12 this season. We'll do Houston, we'll do UCF, and also we'll do BYU, and then of course we'll do Cincinnati as well. So stay tuned for those videos coming out sometime next week. But let's get right into the Rutgers projection here. Let's now look ahead to 2023. Here's a schedule for the Rutgers heading into 2023. You look at who they'll play in the non-conference this season. They'll play Temple here once again, a group of 5 team here out of the non-conference. They played them on the road last year. This time they will play them at home. Then they'll play another ACC team, and this time it will be Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, obviously one of the worst teams that, we saw from last year. We had high expectations for them, but they just didn't turn out to be that good. So Virginia Tech here out of the non-conference, and they'll also play Wagner. So they played Wagner last year as well. So they do get 2 of the same teams from last year, in the non-conference. They'll play Virginia Tech, though. That's the different non-conference game there. The non-conference schedule, not all too tough for the Rutgers. You look at who they'll play outside of the Big Ten East, because we know they're going to be playing almost every single Big Ten East team on this schedule. They'll play Northwestern, a team that was not good last year. They'll play Wisconsin here on October the 7th on the road, and they'll also play Iowa here on the road. So they do get a tough draw there with Wisconsin and Iowa. I mean, both games will be on the road. Wisconsin, though, coming in with a new era. They could be really good. You never know about Wisconsin. And then you got Iowa here. Of course, a tough place to play. And, those are really tough games there outside of the Big Ten East. So let's go game by game now for this Rutgers team. So they'll start the season off with a really good game here in the Big Ten Conference on September 2nd. And they'll kick off with Northwestern here, one of the worst Big Ten teams from last year. Very winnable game here for the Rutgers. They get this game at home, so home field advantage really plays the difference for this team. Then they'll play Temple after that on September 9th. Then they'll play Virginia Tech here. So they'll get their 2 non-conference games. So there's a pretty good chance that the Rutgers could start out 3-0 once again before they head into that rest of the Big Ten schedule. They'll play Michigan here on September 23rd on the road. Definitely going to be a tough game there. And then they'll play Wagner here on September the 30th. So there's a pretty good chance that they could start out 4-1, maybe 2-2. But then they'll play Wisconsin here on October the 7th. And this is where the schedule kind of gets brutal down the stretch for this Rutgers team. Then they'll play Michigan State here on October the 14th. Then they'll play Indiana on the road on October the 21st. So that will be a game that they could probably win that one. So they get a bye week after playing that game before playing Ohio State here on November 4th. And that's a pretty good spot for a bye week. You get Ohio State at home, but really it's Ohio State. You don't know how good this team was going to be, but they are very explosive. They are really just rolling over teams. And they'll play Iowa here and Penn State in both back-to-back road games. What a brutal back-to-back this is going to be for the Rutgers. Iowa on the road, Penn State on the road. And you have to play Penn State on the road as well. So that's going to be a really tough back-to-back road games. And you have to play Iowa out of the Big Ten East. I mean, you have to play those back-to-back games, and those are really going to be tough road games there for the Rutgers. And then they'll end things out here with Maryland here on November 25th. So the schedule overall is pretty brutal for the Rutgers, like it is almost every single year, because they're in the Big Ten East. They have to play Michigan, they have to play Ohio State, and they also have to play Penn State, the top 3 teams from last year, and that's always kind of brutal for them. So let's now get to the projected record for this Rutgers team, and this is the scale I use for my projections. If it's a 1% game, this is the percentage that they don't have any chance of winning those games. 20%, there'll be about a couple touchdowns of underdogs in the orange. 40% in the yellow, these are games where they're going to be a heavy underdog in, about a touchdown. 50-50 games, these will stay in the white. Games where they can go either way. 60%, they'll be favored by at least about a touchdown in the purple. 80%, they'll be favored by about a couple touchdowns, about double digits. And then 90%, these are the easy wins here for the Rutgers. And when it comes to the Rutgers, there's never easy wins on this schedule, but surprisingly, there is an easy win on this schedule, and I think you got one of them, and that's Wagner here on September 30th. This is the only easy win I see the Rutgers, on the schedule with. The rest of the schedule is no easy wins. I think Virginia Tech could be in the green as well, and so does Temple, but Temple's a group of 5 team. We never know about them as well, so they could probably pull off the upset there against this Power 5 team. It wouldn't really be a big shock if the Rutgers lost that game. But anyway, speaking of Temple, I'm going to put them in the blue. These are games where Rutgers is going to be favored by a couple touchdowns, and I got that one being favored by a couple touchdowns against Temple. Temple really could pull off the upset. You never know about them. I mean, the Rutgers have had some problems with non-conference teams over the years, and I think the Rutgers will still be a favorite, though, even though they're at home. But even though they're at home, I'm just still favor them by a couple touchdowns because it's Temple, and they're a group of 5 teams, so you never know about them. So, but both of these games, these are the only games that I see Rutgers being favorites in. The Wagner game, and then, of course, Temple here. And we don't have any games in the purple, so now let's go to the games where they're going to be underdogs in. We'll start with the red games. I do have red games here on the schedule for the Rutgers at 1%, where they have no chance of winning, and I got 3 of those on the schedule: Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. Michigan definitely on the road there's no chance that the Rutgers will beat Michigan on the road. This is an explosive team. This is an explosive offensive group, and also they have a lot of production coming back. This Michigan team is really loaded on both sides of the ball. Ohio State, though, I probably could have put that one in the orange, but it's Ohio State. I can't really project against them, so I'm going to put this one in the red. Then Penn State here. Honestly, that's a road game as well. It's kind of similar to Michigan. They're really talented on both sides of the ball, but will they be that same team from last year? Well, I don't really think they're going to be that same team as they were from last year with Sean Clifford at quarterback, but I think Penn State overall is a red game just based off of where these 3 teams were from last year. So I don't think the Rutgers definitely don't have any chances against all 3 of these teams that you're seeing in the red. Let's go to the games now where they're going to be a couple touchdowns of underdogs. These are better, but they're just not very winnable games. I got 3 of those on the schedule. Wisconsin on the road, Michigan State here on October the 14th, and then Iowa here on November the 11th. Now, Iowa was really close to being a red game here, but I'm going to go with it and put it in the orange just based off of where Iowa was last year. Wisconsin, that was a tough one for me as well. I probably could have put that one as a 50-50 game, but I'm going to stick with it and put it in the orange. Michigan State was very questionable as well. That's a game that I probably could have put in the yellow, but it could switch to a 50-50 game by the time we do those predictions in the month of May. And Michigan State, we don't know how good this team is going to be. I mean, if you're seeing all 3 of these teams in the orange, Iowa, though, I think, we know how good they're going to be somehow, but, Wisconsin and Michigan State are very questionable. Of course, Wisconsin with a new head coach coming in, we don't really know how good they're going to be, but they should be overall pretty good anyway, so... But those are the games where I think the Rutgers will be about a couple touchdowns of underdogs. Let's go to the games now where they're going to be about a touchdown of an underdog in the 40% range. And really, I only got one game, and that's Maryland here on November 25th. This is the only winnable game that I see them, having a chance in. Maryland's a home game. Maryland could probably not be that good this year. You never know about them, but, they do have a lot of production, decent amount of production coming back as well. So, Maryland, that kind of mid-tier team in the Big Ten East. So, this is a home game for the Rutgers, so maybe they're better by this time, and they start to compete with these teams. But, I think Maryland is the only winnable game here in the percentage where they're going to be about a heavy underdog in, about a touchdown. So, and the good news is they get this game at home, so that's the good news there. And the rest of the games here for the Rutgers on this schedule, Northwestern, Virginia Tech, and Indiana are all 50-50 games. I think based off of where these teams were from last year, I got to put these games in the white. Northwestern and Virginia Tech, if they win those two games at home, they'll start out 3-0 on the season, and if they get an easy win, there's a good chance that the Rutgers start out 4-1. So it's very possible that they could probably win all three of these games in the 50-50 games, but it's really going to be hard to tell what the Rutgers team is going to look like. I mean, Rutgers, they haven't been really good in the Big Ten the last few years. They just haven't had a winning season over the years as well. But let's now get to the projected record. If you look at this schedule, like I said, it's not my official prediction. This is simply a projection based on this schedule, and it's a really tough schedule for the Rutgers. So you look at the games that they're favored in with the Wagner game and the Temple game, and also you look at the 50-50 games, and of course you got all these underdog games in the orange, yellow, and of course red games. You get an overall projected record at 4-8 for this Rutgers team, but it's very possible that they go 5-7. I mean, if they win all their 50-50 games and beat Indiana on the road, this team can go 5-7. That would be a big improvement heading into 2023. But if they go 3-9, that would kind of be a big disappointment from this team. But 4-8, the same regular season record from last year at 4-8 in 2022. But this is my overall projected record for this Rutgers team at 4-8. Let me guys know what you think about this Rutgers team. What do you think their overall projected record is, and what do you think their worst case scenario is, and what do you think their best case scenario will be in 2023? And stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.